Bonjour and welcome to Le Gourmet French Chef. I am Chef Eric and I'm super excited to share this video with you today. A special recipe with some few ideas about festive season. It doesn't have to be Christmas. It could be just, a special dinner party or something. But this is just some ideas for you to create something delicious for your friends and family for Christmas. So I've got a few ingredients ready here. What we're going to do, I'm trying to keep it very simple or easy to follow recipes, and also we're not going to spend hours and hours in the kitchen. So for this recipe, I've got the turkey which is already prepared. You don't have to use turkey. You could do any poultry you want, any meat, it's just some ideas. But I like the turkey idea because the way I prepared it, it's cooked sous vide. So you're saving a lot of time. You 100% guarantee that your turkey, I'm using turkey breast, is not going to be dry, because it's always a big issue for lots of people. I hear lots of stories like this. You can prepare it like a couple of days in advance. We're going to reheat it and, just finish it completely. But you can really prepare it in advance. It's a lot of help to make sure that you don't have a dry turkey. You will have all the details about the recipe to cook turkey breast. You can apply it exactly the same for chicken anyway. Turkey breast, sous vide, low temperature. For this recipe also, we've got some large potatoes, starchy potatoes, very important. I will explain in the recipe why, but you don't want waxy potatoes. Those potatoes we're going to cook. I'll show you in a minute. Then we're going to incorporate some egg yolk, some clarified butter, salt, pepper, nutmeg. We pipe it in a very decorative way. It goes in the oven to have a nice golden color. That's all. So that's super easy. Then to go with this, we're going to make a pumpkin. It's a Potimarron, so it's a type of pumpkin. You use what you have. You could use butternut. I'm using the Potimarron. I like the flavor, I like the texture, and also this is the only one you can also eat the skin. So the skin is on. And to go with this, we've got some chestnut, cooked chestnut, which you buy. They can be vacuum packed sealed, they can be in a jar. And to go with this, we're going to make a cranberry and port sauce. So we got some stock, we got some shallot, cranberry. We're going to deglaze with some port, bit of a reduction. I will show you that in a minute. To work in the right order, ideally, you want to cook first your potatoes. That's where we're going to start, because that's going to take, roughly speaking, 45 minutes, an hour in the oven. While we're waiting for the potatoes, we will make Potimarron, the pumpkin puree. And while this cooking also together, we will make the sauce. So we end up at the end, everything is ready near enough in the same time. And I hope you've got all your mise en place ready. Prepare all your ingredients. Don't forget to follow, don't forget to share this video. So get yourself ready and let's go and start. We're going to start first with the potatoes. So to start a recipe, we're going to start with the pomme duchesse. To start cooking your potatoes, you've got three options, pretty much. The professional option, or the most common way, it will be if you have some big rock salt like this one. You make a bed of salt and you put your potatoes on the top, just like that. And that will go in the oven to cook. You got all the details of the temperature and the time. Temperature, it's important, but the time, depending on the size of the potato. So it could be 45 minutes, it could be 1 hour. It could be an hour and 15 if they're really massive. It could be, So it really depends on your potatoes, on your oven. Another option, if you don't do this, you will peel your potatoes. And then you can boil them in salted water. And when you, with a knife, you check your potatoes. If it's cooked, it's ready, you dry them. The problem by doing this is that the potato could absorb lots of water. And then after that, you're going to have a watery mashed potato. And when we incorporate our egg yolks and we incorporate the butter, you got something a bit liquid. And when you want to pipe for your pomme duchesse, it's a bit harder and it might actually not work. The third option is to steam them. So it's a bit better than straight into the water. Steaming them will also work very well. So you peel them, you cubes, and then after that you steam them with some water. You put salt in your water, don't forget. And the same story after you mash them, and then you can do exactly the same. Best option is to do this option because you make sure that the potato doesn't absorb any water. You want a dry mashed potato. And while this cooking, we're going to prepare our pumpkin puree. So now we're on the stove. We're going to start cooking our Potimarron puree. To do this, we're just melting a bit of butter and we're going to sweat our chopped shallot. So we're sweating the shallot just a couple of minutes. We don't want any color, doesn't need. And we just sweat them off in a bit of butter. Then after that, we're going to add our Potimarron or pumpkin or whatever you're using. It would be exactly the same if we were doing with parsnips or celeriac. It's exactly the same techniques. We're going to sweat that for also a couple of minutes. After that, we're going to cover completely with milk and cream. Voila. We just cover all the way to the top. Then we're going to add a pinch of salt. So now that we covered all the way to the top with a pinch of salt, we're going to put a cartouche. A cartouche is actually like a lid of parchment paper, which we stick right on top of the puree in that case. It could be, we use cartouche for lots of different reasons. Normal parchment paper, you fold it in half, okay? Then you fold it in half again, okay? Then in half again, then in half again. So you end up with this. Then from here, we're going to measure exactly how much we need. We're going to take half. We measure about half of the diameters. We make it slightly larger from here. So we've got a measure, and then with your scissors, you cut. We also cut a little hole in the middle. And then when you reopen, you've got your lid, which we're going to sit right on top, which is the perfect size. So now we've got our cartouche sitting. We're going to let simmer our pumpkin with the liquid until it's cooked. So that should take about 15 minutes because we've got small pieces of pumpkin. So now that our puree is cooking, we're going to make the sauce. To make our port and cranberry sauce, if you don't have any cranberries, you can use any other fruit. It could be figs, it could be raisins, it could be a bit of apricot. The first thing to do is we melt our butter. Then we're going to add some shallots. And we're going to sweat those shallots on the low heat. We don't want to give any color. We don't want to burn the shallot. We don't want to caramelize. We just want to sweat them off. It's very important. Lots of sauces, start always in the same direction, in the same idea, I would say. So now we're going to deglaze our shallot. Hop, voila. And we're going to reduce with vinegar. After that, we're going to add the port. Voila. We nearly evaporated everything. Now we're going to add our port. Bring it to the boil and let it reduce by half. In the same time, we can add actually the dried cranberries. We start soaking up the juice. And we're going to let that reduce for, let's say 2 to 3 minutes on the high heat to reduce our quantity of liquid and to evaporate also the alcohol of the port. So now we've got our sauce starting to reduce. We're going to check our puree because it might be cooked. Because we had very small pieces of pumpkin. So you check that all the pieces are cooked. Our port has been reducing really well. We're going to add the stock. When you make sauces, you will see me or hear me saying this pretty much every time we use the stock. The quality of the sauce or the result, if you want to do like really good sauces, it comes down to one thing, it's the quality of your stock. Because you can play, do whatever, or sweating your shallot, deglaze, flambe, whatever you want to do. If your stock you're using, it's not very good, then you can't really get to really, really good level of sauces. If you don't make your stock, I understand, not everybody's got time or the patience or the equipment, but buy good quality stock. What's important when you buy your stock, it's also very important to look at the salt. If your stock is too salty, when you make your sauces, when you reduce, when you try to make a glass or demi-glace or something, then your sauce will be too salty. That's why it's always better to make your own stock. We brought our sauce to the boil. We're going to let it reduce and reduce about by half until we get right consistency. So we've got our sauce, which is keep reducing at the back here. Our puree is completely cooked. So what we're going to do now next, to have a really fine texture, we're going to pass it through a little like a sieve, like a mini passette, we call it. It's optional, okay? You could just mash your puree, but because we're going to pipe it with little bottle pipette, we really want to have something in a fine texture. All you have to do really, it's pass it through. And then with the back of a spoon, very simply, you just press. The next move now is to actually taste. And then we'll see if we added some salt at the beginning, no pepper, so we know we need pepper. But, okay, so you check your seasoning. I need a little bit more salt, and I need some pepper. You can use the seasoning you want, okay? So I'm just having a little bit of nutmeg, that goes really well. And I will do a touch of piment d'Espelette. I mean a touch, really, really not a lot. It's always good to have a little bit of heat at the back. But that's ready, just the seasoning to check, and you got your puree ready. And now we're going to go back on the sauce. I'm waiting for the potatoes to be cooked, and then we do the pomme duchesse, and then we're done. So now our sauce has reduced enough, and this is the consistency we're looking for. You see the back of the spoon, it's just slightly nappé. It's not too thick, okay? We will finish it at the last minute with a tiny bit of butter. but not just yet, because we got the pomme duchesse to make. So now that sauce is going to stay on the side. So now our potatoes are fully cooked. To make sure they're cooked, you just put a knife through it. If it's steaming or if it's boiling, it's exactly the same. You use a knife, you check, no question about it. Now the next step, we're going to mash this potato. To mash the potato, you can use a little tammy, little sieve, like we did for the puree. I'm not going to, you don't have to. You can use a fork, you can use a whisk, you can use a potato masher. For the pomme duchesse, you don't want any big pieces because when we're going to pipe with our star nozzle, you don't want to have big chunk, but it doesn't have to be super smooth. It's quite nice to have a bit of texture also inside. You don't want, puree with puree with puree. So I will not pass it through the sieve. We've got our egg yolks ready here for our pomme duchesse, which we're going to add in a minute. And also we've got some butter, which is melting right now to be clarified. To clarify the butter, it's to let it melt, let it sit. The buttermilk goes at the bottom, and then whatever stays at the top, it's the fat. So that's what we're going to use. If you have a bit of foam on the top, you skim it off because that's part of the buttermilk. The reason we want clarified butter into our pomme duchesse is that because we don't want to add any water. The buttermilk, is very watery, so that will make it a bit too liquid. So we really want just the fat to have something rich. And we will season it with salt, pepper, nutmeg, classical seasoning. So right now I'm going to peel the potatoes and then we will mash it in a minute. So to mash the potato, I'm just going to use the fork. As I said before, I don't need to have a super smooth texture, okay? So the fork will do nicely. Well, we don't want any big chunk, but we don't mind small bits, but we'll add a bit of texture. So after that, when you're happy with your consistency, when you make sure that there is no, big chunk, which will actually block the piping bag, the nozzle, the tip of the bag, we're going to season. And after that, we will add our egg yolk. What's important, it's not to add the egg yolk too soon, too early, when your mashed potato is too hot, because you could actually start cooking the eggs if you're not mixing up, really quickly. So it's really important to do one thing at a time. So right now, we're going to check, it's not too hot, no, it's fine. So a bit of pepper, little bit of salt. Okay, don't go too crazy on the salt. Add little bit of nutmeg. This is the classical, really seasoning. You'll see that in lots of French cooking. Salt, pepper, nutmeg. And then now I'm going to use a Mary's spatula, soft spatula, to really incorporate seasoning. And I can see that it's not particularly hot, so we can add our egg yolks. So now we can mix our egg yolk into our puree until it's fully incorporated. And after that, we will add our clarified butter. Before we actually move on to piping, we're going to taste, very important, because after it will be too late. So it's a good time to check or rectify your seasoning. The piping bag, we're going to use a star-shaped tip. We're going to feed it inside a bag. So you put it through first. Then we do a little mark to make sure where to cut it, because every tip, for piping bag, they're all sort of different sizes. All the bags are not always the same. We're going to add a pomme duchesse mix, a plastic scraper. We push to make sure we're ready. You don't want any air. Voila. So that's ready to go. And our pomme duchesse is ready to be piped. To pipe your pomme duchesse, you've got two options. You can use just a tray like this one and use a silicone mat. Otherwise, you just use a baking tray and so parchment. It works exactly the same. So to pipe a pomme duchesse, there is different option or different shape, but I'm going to do for this one the most common one, the classical, I would say, sort of like a rosace or rosette. So once you finish piping your pomme duchesse, we're going to go in the oven for roughly 15-20 minutes at 200 Celsius. All we want to do, we don't want actually to cook the eggs, but we really want to give some color, so a light golden color. So depending on your oven, just keep an eye on it. Maybe at the top, at the bottom, maybe you need to turn around your tray. Every oven are different. So that's going to go in the oven, and then we have everything ready. We've got our puree, we've got a sauce. We're going to warm up our turkey, and then we've got a pomme duchesse. All we have is to make the presentation. Voila. So now that we've got everything ready, we've got all our mise en place done. The last thing before we actually can serve or present your dish is to finish the sauce. To finish the sauce, very briefly, we don't do that all the time to every sauces, okay, in France, but it's quite normal, quite common to do it. You know, there's lots of sauces. What you want is you want your sauce to be really, really hot. It doesn't have to be boiling, super hot. Depends on the quantity, but you want it, you know, very hot. And we're going to incorporate, you see there's not a lot, there's about 15, 20 grams here. We're going to incorporate this very, very cold butter into a hot sauce because you don't want to carry on boiling up the sauce. If your sauce is too hot, your actually butter will melt completely and you have a pool of fat on the top. So now we're just going to do a little bit of butter at the time. Your butter has to be very, very cold and your sauce hot. It's a light emulsion. We're incorporating fat into our sauce. There is no butter anymore. We've got our chunks of cranberries, which we're going to use as a garnish, and our sauce is finished. So, hey, voila, this is our final dish. This is just an idea of presentation, just to give you a bit of inspiration. Nothing too complicated. You saw those recipes, I think they're pretty simple, you know, very easy to follow. All the recipe will be in the description down below. You got the recipe, you will have also the equipment. You know, as I explained before, lots of things can be done in advance as a mise en place. So you keep it very simple for your dinner party, Christmas or whatever you're making, to have as little as possible to make when your guests are here actually. So you free some time for yourself so you can enjoy your guest company. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share this video, and go on our website to check out French cooking courses, more recipes, more tips coming your way. Bon appétit and a happy holiday.